She played melodies she could never hear, and he felt a heartbeat he thought was gone forever. In a silent corner of the old city stood an abandoned music hall, a place where dust danced in the rays of dying sunlight. Every dusk, Adrian, a vampire cursed by centuries of loneliness, sat in the shadows of the grand balcony. Once he had loved and lost everything. Now he avoided the world, feeding only enough to survive, his existence a hollow echo of a life once lived. His heart, long still, was a forgotten relic. One evening, a new sound pierced the hall's silence. It wasn't the creak of old wood or the sigh of the wind. It was a piano. The notes were hesitant at first, like a fawn testing its legs, then flowed into a melody full of a longing that resonated deep within Adrian's dormant soul. He leaned forward, his ancient eyes scanning the stage below. There, at the grand piano, sat a young woman, her fingers dancing across the ivory keys. Her name was Elara. Adrian found himself drawn to the music hall night after night. He learned that Elara was deaf. She played from memory, feeling the vibrations of the music through the piano's wooden body. She couldn't hear the beautiful tunes she created, just as he couldn't feel the warmth of the sun or the beat of his own heart. In her silent world of sound, he saw a reflection of his own muted existence. Her music wasn't just notes. It was a story of hope and sorrow, a symphony of a life lived in a world she couldn't fully experience. It was a song he understood all too well. One night, a heavy storm raged outside, trapping Elara in the hall. The thunder rattled the stained glass windows, and a loose beam from the ceiling creaked ominously. Adrian watched from the shadows, his protective instincts, long buried, stirring to life. As the beam began to fall, he moved with supernatural speed, a blur of motion in the dim light. He caught the heavy timber just inches above her head. Elara felt the sudden gust of wind and the tremor as the beam was stopped. She lewd up her eyes wide with shock. There stood a man she had never seen before, his face pale and sculpted like a classical statue, holding the massive piece of wood as if it were a feather. His eyes held an ancient sadness, yet they shone with a strange intensity. She couldn't hear his voice, but she could see the concern etched on his features. Adrian gently lowered the beam to the floor, and then, with a hesitant hand, reached out and touched her cheek. It was the first time he had willingly touched a human in over a century. A jolt, like a forgotten memory of warmth, passed through him. He couldn't speak to her in a way she would understand, so he used the language they shared. Music. Adrian sat at the piano. His fingers, which had known only coldness for so long, began to play. He poured all his centuries of loneliness, his lost love, and the flicker of new hope he felt into the melody. The music was a dark, passionate torrent, a story of an immortal life, filled with endless night. Elara watched, her hands resting on the piano, feeling the powerful vibrations. She felt the story in his music, the pain, the yearning, the flicker of a connection that transcended sound. Her eyes met his, and in that moment, they understood each other without a single word. From that night on, a silent routine bloomed between them. She would play her melodies of hopeful longing, and he would answer with his compositions of eternal sorrow. They communicated through shared vibrations and lingering glances. He would leave her a single, perfect moonflower on the piano bench, each morning a flower that only bloomed in the dark. She, in turn, would leave him sheets of music she had transcribed, her own silent letters to him. He was her unseen audience, her silent protector. She was his secret dawn, the first ray of light to pierce his endless dusk. But their fragile world couldn't remain hidden forever. A group of vampire hunters, tracing whispers of a shadow haunting the old city, arrived. Their leader, a man named Gideon, was ruthless and driven by a personal vendetta. They saw the music hall not as a sanctuary, but as a lair. One evening, they stormed the hall while Ilara was playing, mistaking her for a vampire's thrall. Gideon cornered Ilara, his silver cross gleaming. "Where is the creature of the night?" he demanded, his voice echoing in the vast space. Ilara couldn't hear him, but she saw the malice in his eyes and shrank back in fear. Just as he lunged, Adrian appeared, moving between them like a phantom. He didn't growl or show his fangs. Instead, he simply stood there, shielding Ilara with his body, his eyes filled with a plea for peace. Gideon sneered. "So, the monster plays protector." A fight erupted. Adrian, weakened by his minimalist feeding habits, was no match for the armed hunters. He fought defensively, his only goal to keep Ilara safe. He took a silver-bladed cut to his arm, the wound sizzling and refusing to heal. He stumbled, the pain a fiery reminder of his vulnerability. Seeing Adrian hurt, Ilara did the only thing she could. She slammed her hands down on the lowest keys of the piano, creating a deep, powerful vibration that shook the entire stage. The hunters, caught off guard by the disorienting tremor, faltered. In that split second of chaos, Ilara grabbed Adrian's hand and pulled him toward a hidden passage behind the stage curtain that he had once shown her. They disappeared into the darkness just as the hunters regained their footing. They fled through the city's ancient catacombs. Adrian was fading fast, the silver poison spreading through his veins. He collapsed against a cold stone wall. "Leave me," he rasped, his voice barely a whisper. "They will find you if you stay." Ilara shook her head fiercely. She couldn't hear his words, but she understood his intent. She refused to abandon him. Sinking fast, she looked at his pale lips and then at her own wrist. Without hesitation, she bit down on her own skin, drawing blood, and offered her wrist to him. Adrian recoiled. The scent of her blood was intoxicating, a siren's call to the monster within him. But he saw the trust and determination in her eyes. It wasn't an offering to a monster. It was a gift to the man she saw. He hesitated, his conscience warring with his instinct. But he knew it was the only way. With a trembling hand, he took her wrist. As he drank, he felt not just life returning, but a connection deeper than any he had ever known. Her life force merged with his, a bond of sacrifice and love that transcended the boundaries of life and death. Her heartbeat echoed in his chest, a rhythm he thought was lost to him forever. When he was strong enough, he pulled away, his eyes filled with gratitude and a profound love. The bond between them was now unbreakable, sealed in blood and sacrifice. Using his renewed strength, he led them through the labyrinthine tunnels to a hidden exit on the far side of the city. They emerged into the pre-dawn light, free. They didn't look back. They traveled far away, finding a new life in a secluded town by the sea. Adrian, forever changed, found he could now withstand the faint light of dawn and dusk. The edges of the day no longer a painful barrier. Ilara, with Adrian by her side, began to compose new music, no longer just of longing, but of fulfillment and joy. Their love was a quiet symphony, played not with notes that could be heard, but with shared glances, gentle touches, and two souls intertwined. In the twilight of his immortal life, Adrian had found his eternal dawn, and she, who played melodies she could never hear, finally found someone who listened with his entire soul. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more tales that explore the unseen corners of love and life. We'll see you In the next story.